Greetings, my name is Monique Castro. I am a citizen of the Navajo Nation and Xicana, born and raised in Los Angeles. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and certified professional coach, and I am the CEO and founder of Indigenous Circle of Wellness. Primarily through my grandmother, my auntie, my mom, my grandfather, and my father. And the way it was introduced to me was around safety. Like, how do you stay safe? And they taught me various ways that were always age appropriate around how to stay safe. So as a young child, let's say 5 years old, is probably the youngest I could remember. It was that I knew my phone number. It was that I knew my address, that I knew who I was allowed to get into a car with or to go home with, right? So there were certain things that were set up for me and all my cousins who are primarily at the time young girls, to be safe. Examples I could say as I got older was like how to defend yourself. I was also taught probably as soon as I went to school is like, don't get into a car with anyone, don't get near someone you don't know. If someone tries to lure you into a space, like what to do to stay away. But in the case that you are placed in a situation like in a car, how to get out of it. As I got older, it was explained to me more explicitly of why those things were shared with us and why it was important for us to keep ourselves safe and how to keep others safe around us. And also, if something does happen, you come and tell us. It was always very much like you let us know you are not going to be in trouble, you tell us. Now is the term and the acronym. Back then it was the lesson. And the lesson is still there, but that's not how it was framed at that time, right? So that was my introduction around safety and what does that look like for both prevention and intervention. I have a niece who I've been part of her upbringing and co-parenting and raising her, as many of us do. We have that role as an auntie. So yes, I have shared with her the same way. Until recently, now that she's 18, I've explicitly shared it with her as like MMIP, right? Or any of the acronyms. And I've taken her to different events. I've taken her to different things so she can understand it. And I paired the two. You got to experience it in this workshop. You heard about these terms. Now remember, I told you about ways to keep yourself safe. This is the same thing. And this is why it's important, right? So she's able to connect the dots. And at a younger age, it might be, no one's allowed to touch you in any of your private parts, right? Like, let's go over what those private parts are so you know what they are, right? As she got older, the conversation started to change and it'd be more intentional around like, in this situation, what could you do? But she has different resources, and it was because we've talked about them over the course of her life, and I think they made a difference. I would say across the lifespan, the message is the same, is that we have to really focus on our own wellness and be a good model to others. There's a lot of consumption of information, then create vicarious trauma, which is like a secondary type of trauma that we receive information or we see something, it's not happening to us, but because we're seeing it, hearing it, witnessing it in some kind of way, then it will then create a trauma response within our own bodies and our own minds. And we have to be mindful of that. So again, no matter where you're at on the lifespan, it's important for us to take care of ourselves, and that we are taking care of ourselves with the intention of our wellness is really going to create that ripple effect in the wellness and healing of others. Now, we cannot show up for people if we're not in a good place, or anyone in general, is that you really take care of yourself and then find ways to model that or to support others. What does that look like? Talk about it. This is what's working for me. I'm always like, go to this massage therapist. This is a great mental health therapist. This is a great chiropractor, and I only have those resources because I've tried them myself and I know that they've worked for me, and maybe they'll work for you. And I will say, stay away from toxic people. Boundaries, I think, is one of the biggest things that I work with people on a daily basis, is boundaries, or the lack of boundaries. And that honestly does come from violence. violence on us as individuals, on our community, where we have sometimes a challenge around boundaries and what that looks like. It's a constant conversation that I have. And in order for me to show up in the ways that I need to for my family and my community, it's like I have to take care of myself. Now we add on the extra, right? The extra layer of like, I'm a therapist where I'm sitting across from folks daily, supporting, folks in their healing and wellness journey in various capacities. And so the notch of self-care that needs to go up. So what does that look like in Monique's life? And I say Monique's life because what it looks like for me might be different for someone else. So I'm not at all saying like, this is what you have to do. This is what has worked for me. And it changes as life changes, like how many sessions I'm able to take in a given day or a week even. I make sure that I am weaving in health and wellness regularly. It's what I'm drinking, it's what I'm eating, right? I'm drinking a lot of water. I am eating, I've been more intentional about my eating habits. I shut off my phone at a certain time. Like these are the things, I'm very intentional about how I utilize my time and space and what I'm absorbing. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, like where I'm consuming information. I don't really watch the news very often. There's so many other things that are important to me, like being in community, being part of, cultural practices are really important to me. But also sometimes I might need a break from just anyone. So this might be just like kind of being more of an introvert sometimes. So there's an array of things that I do. And I would say that on any given day of the week, sometimes it changes, but because I create spaciousness, I have the opportunity to insert the things that I need when I need them.